Scrappy family, Amanda here. We're going to work on some pictures today of my daughter and I at a character dining experience at Disney with Snow White and the Dwarves. I took a ton of pictures during this character experience, so this layout is going to be chocked full of photos. I am recording this at a day crop, so that's why our scenery is a little different. But I really enjoyed working on these pictures. We had so much fun at the event. For the layout, I'm using this yellow and white starred pattern paper from Simple Stories, one of their Disney collections. I cut this down to 6 by 12. However, before I adhere it to the layout, I ink the edges with brown ink from Quick Quotes. Of course, the base of my layout is white American Crafts cardstock per usual. I really do love the stripe on the back of this pattern paper as well. But I'm going to put that down and then I'm going to work on my photo placement. Because we took so many pictures, I'm going to end up using a flip flap on this layout. So you'll see me here trying to figure out which pictures will go on the layout versus in the flaps. I want to group the pictures together somewhat. So I'll be putting the 3 by 4 pictures of us with Grumpy together on this page. Hannah just had the best time interacting with this character. He made her laugh, like deep belly laughs, and it was so pleasing to see as a parent. At the end of the dinner, the evil queen appeared for photos, but she didn't walk around like the other characters. Um, so I'm trying to figure out the best place to put this picture with the evil queen. I then cut down a piece of that striped paper that's on the back of the yellow stars to 2.25 by 8.25. I've printed several pictures in the 2 by 2 size that I want to include on the layout as well. These pictures are mostly of the food that we ate at the dinner. The theming at this restaurant for each course was just perfect, very on brand for Disney, and I had to take pictures of our food. I'm not usually a person who does that, but I wanted to make sure to capture that portion of the dining experience as well. So I'm just putting them here on this strip of paper. I wanted it to have like a film strippy vibe, so that's what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and ink up the paper using the same brown ink from Quick Quotes that I used on the yellow sheet, and then I'm going to adhere the photos to the strip. So once I add all the pictures to the strip, I decide to move on to the left-hand side of the layout. Again, I'm going to play around with my photo placements here. Since I'm not working with the sketch, I'm really relying on my creativity to get all of my pictures on the layout. So I'm going to play around with a few different um, positions for the photos and where I want them to go. As I'm figuring out the positions for the pictures, I remember the embellishment pack that I purchased specifically for this layout. Back in April, I went to the Scrapbook Expo in Florida and I purchased this really cute ephemera pack of Snow White die cuts. I knew that I wanted to build a scene on my layout using the pieces from this embellishment pack. It had various cutouts of Snow White and with the dwarves and the house and things of that nature. So I wanted to utilize that to make it a focal point on the layout. I do immediately gravitate toward that scallop piece that I put over by the strip of the 2 by 2 photos, and I am going to utilize that there. And here I'm just going through each of the pieces to see which of the die cuts I'm going to end up utilizing on the layout. Of course, I'm trying to pick out the pieces that are relevant to the photo, right? We only met with Grumpy and Dopey, so those are the dwarves that I pull out versus the other dwarves that were represented in the kit. Again, I decide to edit the arrangement of the pictures on the layout, still trying to group the pictures together somewhat. I put down the picture of Snow White and I up at the top right of the page next to the picture of Hannah and Snow White on the right hand page. At the bottom of the layout, I add the two 3 by 4 pictures of us with Dopey across from the 4 by 6 picture of us together on the right hand page. I then bring over a piece of the yellow star paper that we used on the right hand page to carry it over to this side of the layout as well. I auditioned the paper in between the two photo cluster placements, but it's just a bit too thin to fill that space completely, and it looks off a bit. So then I decide that it'll be best to put it next to the photos instead, and to utilize that space in the middle between the two pictures to build an embellishment cluster with the die cuts from the ephemera pack. So I'm just inking up here some of those die cut pieces because they are outlined in white and it is blending with the background. So just to make it pop a bit, I do decide to ink the edges of some of the pieces that I put down. So I put the house a little further back, and then I'm going to pop up the Snow White with the two dwarfs here on some foam tape. You all know I love a good dimension, but it also allows the picture or the placement to look as if it is in front of the house or the cottage. Once the scene is complete, I move on to the picture of us with the evil queen. Looking at the picture, I decide to mat the photo. So I select a piece of red cardstock and I cut that down to 4¼ by 6¼ As I go to put down the photo, I realize that I still had to adhere the yellow star paper to the layout. So I pick it up and I ink the edges to keep it consistent with the other side of the layout. Then I adhere the pattern paper to the background. After the paper is down, I go back to our photo and I place it on top of the yellow starred paper. Since the picture is a little wider than the pattern paper, so that mat really helps it to ground the photo and it doesn't get lost. I then use another piece of the ephemera to go over the picture, and it says fairest of them all, which is totally appropriate for this picture of the three of us. And then I use this other icon that says mirror, mirror on the wall. Um, I then decide to place our photo cluster with the food a little slanted on the right hand page just to give it a little bit of character. And then I use that scalloped um, piece from the ephemera pack that has a bunch of apples on it. Um, and so that looked really cute there. Then I used some more of the die cuts of Snow White and the dwarves at the bottom underneath the cluster of the 2x2 photos, just so that I can have another scene down there as well. And I pop up Dopey and Grumpy down there as I laid her flat. I also inked the edges of those similar to the ones in the middle on the left-hand page, just to break up some of that white background. So here I'm just pulling out some additional pieces from the ephemera pack, some flowers and birds. There was a poison apple as well that I put at the bottom of that 4x6 photo, um, because we all know that's what the evil queen gives to Snow White to make her fall asleep. Um, and just messing around to see what other pieces from the ephemera pack I wanted to bring out. In the ephemera pack, I had picked out this apple that was like on a vine, and I decided to put the poison apple on top of the regular apple, underneath that photo of us with the or with the evil queen, rather. And then I removed that additional Snow White that I had down at the bottom left. I just felt like I was getting a little overkill with the amount of Snow Whites that we had on the page. So I gotta find something else to put there. I'm thinking probably to do some journaling down at the bottom in that cluster area. And here I am again, just looking through the ephemera pieces to see what I can add to the layout. And I pull out some birds that I'm gonna put around Snow White and the dwarves. And here I am cutting a piece of white scrap paper to use for my journaling. This honestly was one of the best Disney experiences that we had, dining experiences. So I'm sure I'll detail that in the journaling, but I don't get too deep on it, as you know, there's really not that much to say. So here I am putting down the birds that I selected from the ephemera pack, and I'm gonna put down our journaling. After I put down the journaling block, I'm just looking around to see if there's anything else I want to add. And then I remembered that I had print this photo. They had some really beautiful artwork in the restaurant lobby area. And this is just a photo of the dwarves, or a photo of a picture of the dwarves that was painted. It was really beautiful. And then I'm just putting some floral pieces from the ephemera pack around it so that it's not just floating out there. I'm adding some birds as well to this other cluster of Snow White. again, to keep it consistent, and we know that the birds loved her, all the woodland creatures. I'm continuing to like look through all the ephemera pieces because there were so many um, that I got from that packet. And then here I'm just showing you guys that I'm going to use that flip flap for the photo of Grumpy when I end up putting it in the page protector. That'll go there. I'm going to just add some enamel dots around the page that match in each of the clusters. And then I take a piece of like a scrap of cardstock from that yellow striped paper, or the yellow starred paper. This is the back of it. It was this really pretty rainbow stripe. And I just make a banner to put in between um, the photo block and the 2x2 photos, not wanting to throw away the scrap. Um, and I just trim it down a little bit so that it fits there. So I'm going to ink that up and put that down on the layout. And of course, it looks a little lonely, so I have to, add something else to it as well. So I decided to take a scrap of the red cardstock that I used to mat the photo with and add that on top of it. And I used my white gel pen to draw some faux stitching marks onto it. And this will make the layout complete. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're able to do something creative to make yourself proud today as well. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.